Hi good people from all around the world, this is Nick from OVA Let's Plays. In today's video we'll be going over 8 things I think that could be included in the Resident Evil Village DLC. This is more for entertainment purposes really, as they probably already have done what they already planned for DLC, they just haven't announced it completely yet. But an important issue I want to get out of the way right away, and it's that hopefully they'll resolve before the DLC, is this issue across platforms on Resident Evil Village of save progress being lost. I made a video a while back and I was surprised how many people have lost their saves. And not just on Steam. I lost mine on Steam, and then an update popped up and I did the update, and then I lost my save progress. And it's happened to a lot of other people, and I don't know what's causing this, especially cross platforms, but I hope this gets resolved first as a priority before DLC, because it's hard to get invested in the game if you're never know. It's hanging over your head. Am I going to lose progress again, especially if it's happened more than once? So I hope they're taking this seriously, and I hope it gets resolved. So the first thing in the DLC request list that I have, or the things that I think that would improve the game a lot, is to fix the extra content. I think the extra content in Resident Evil Village is easily the weakest part. I made a video on how to improve mercenaries, and that would be the first one. So if you guys would like to see how mercenaries could be improved, in my opinion, I'll link the video down below and probably at the end and right here as well. But the other thing too is to fix the hand cannon and the rocket pistol. I've heard a lot of complaints about both. The hand cannon is interesting before you have infinite ammo, but because it uses rifle ammo, and rifle ammo is more common. But once you have infinite ammo, it's pretty much useless compared to the other magnums and becomes redundant. I've also heard complaints about the rocket pistol. I've read complaints here and there saying that they wish they would have had the traditional Resident Evil rocket launcher instead. Now, one way to fix both of these problems, a simple way is to simply just up their stats a little bit, make the rocket pistol just more powerful, and make the blast radius a bit bigger. And the same thing with the hand cannon, just up the stats to make it the new powerful magnum. But I think people would complain, especially if they've used CP points on like the Stake or the Wolfsbane, which is the more popular magnums. An interesting solution might be to combine the hand cannon and the rocket pistol to make the rocket hand cannon. The blast radius could be in between the size of the grenade launcher and the rocket pistol. It could still be weaker than the Wolfsbane and the Stake for balance, but it would have the capabilities of group attacks better and to take down armor better and stuff like that. So you'd have to weigh out in your head, okay, do I want the more powerful magnum, or do I want the one that can also cause explosions? It'll also be more, it's still innovative and more original than the rocket launcher, but it's similar, more closer to the rocket launcher, so it should make the people that wanted the rocket launcher more happy, hopefully. That's just my 2 ideas right off the bat for DLC. My third idea is to add an exclusive weapon for Chris in story mode. The first time you play it, it's unexpected, it's really cool and epic, and it's more action oriented, but on subsequent playthroughs it's a little bit more bland and tedious, especially on Village of Shadows. I have multiple ideas for this. You could have a flamethrower attachment to the Dragoon, which would be funny for its name and everything, or a laser attachment. If you can have a lightsaber, you should be able to have a laser rifle. The third idea I have is you could have the Hydra from Resident Evil 5, but not the watered down version that appeared in later versions of Resident Evil, but the really cool, powerful version of the Hydra from RE5 would be amazing. That would be so fun to just blast through groups of Lycans with it. So yeah, that's my third idea. My fourth idea is to add the Dagger of Death's flowers. When I originally read about it in the journal, the notebook, I was really excited for it, as I thought it was going to be in the main game. And it was, to a point. It was sort of a MacGuffin of a way to just beat Lady D or to unlock her transformation. But I was really hoping I would find it later on and use it, and I was very, very disappointed, especially later on when we found the Karambit and we found the L's the answer, I think the Daggers of Death Flowers would have been much better. Maybe it could heal you on hits or poison the enemy slowly over time or something like that. Maybe to unlock it, you could play reverse and have to get a certain score to get it or something, but I think they should definitely include it in the game. And I was just very disappointed. For some people, it's going to be a minor issue, but for me, I was very disappointed that they didn't have it in the game beyond that one cutscene. Number 5 for me would be to add more length to the Castle Dimitrescu part. I think I'm not alone in the fact that that was one of my favorite parts about the game. The house is very beautiful, the castle is very beautiful, and it reminded me of Resident Evil 4. Is very gothic, European, very ornate. The architecture and everything in the game reminded me of Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 has so many beautiful locations, and Village has some beautiful locations, but not nearly as many. There's ways that they could add to Castle Dimitrescu. One idea I had at the top of my head was maybe a maiden is captured and chained up, and you try to save her, but she slowly starts transforming into one of the ghouls. That's just off the top of my head, and it might add more to the horror element. They could add more parts like that. I also like the village sections of the game too. Other parts just of the game aren't quite as interesting as the Castle Dimitrescu, so I do hope they add more to it. Number 6 for the DLC is I would just add a little bit to the House Beneviento part of the game. It's pretty perfect as it is. I love the part beforehand where you fight enemies, and after you fight and after you're done with the house, you fight enemies like the Axemen and the ghouls and stuff. It's pretty perfect. It builds up the psychological horror and tension the whole way through, whether it's the environment or the puzzles or the fact that you don't have weapons. Then there's the whole fetus thing, that's scary. And then there's the boss fight with Angie, which is where I think it kind of falls apart a little bit. The dolls there are creepy, but it ends kind of anticlimactically. And part of that is because it happened so unexpectedly. It fits with Donna's character, her being very timid and not being very aggressive, and her just being kind of sad and acting more through Angie. So it makes sense that Angie would be the thing to fight as the final boss. But the way it happens is you just have this hide and seek, and then you have a prompt that shows up when you find her, and then you stab her. There's a couple ways I wish it would go, because she plays with your mind throughout this whole thing, and you have not hardly any agency or way to fight back. And I wish they had this thing where you could have scissors, have the scissors in your hand like it was a knife, and you could swing it, and you had to hit Angie with the scissors. That might feel like a bit more cathartic and a bit more like, oh, now I have the power. I was powerless before, but now I have some kind of agency and power, and now I can actually, as the player, I can actually hit with something. The other option would be after the Angie fight and after the whole thing's over, and maybe both of those things could happen, where you hold the scissors like a knife and you can stab with it like a knife. That could still happen, but afterwards I want to be able to kick one of the dolls, one of the porcelain dolls, like a soccer ball, and have it fling against the wall and have it shatter into pieces. That would be another cathartic moment that you could have after being toyed with for so long psychologically, just to like kick one of the dolls and it just satisfyingly just shatters into pieces on the wall. And that could be a better ending for it. That's my main complaint with the House Benevento, is it ends out of nowhere, and I suppose it fits with the theming of being a depressive place, and then you feel kind of this empty victory at the end, like, you know, but maybe that could help with it. That's how I would want it to go, is you can either have the option to stab with the scissors, and especially be able to kick one of the dolls and have it shatter into pieces. But that's number 6. The 7th thing would be to either improve or shorten Moreau's section in the story. He's the weakest of the lords, and it's the weakest part of the game, so that's kind of appropriate in that sense. But it starts out great with the Varkalak and the werewolf part, and then the caverns can be improved maybe with, you could have more lichens, but they could have like barnacles on them or something more ocean themed or water themed. And then instead of having, once you get to the windmill part, that's when it starts to get kind of boring, and especially the water bridge and all that. I would rather have the option to fight Moreau in the water on a boat, kind of like the Del Lago part in Resident Evil 4, where it's a bit trickier and it's not necessarily to do. You don't have to do it necessarily, but you get a better reward. You get a better treasure from beating Moreau in the water, and it ends it shorter. That could be an option. Like instead of just getting his normal crystal remains, they're like emerald crystal remains or something, so they're worth more, and you can skip the windmill part, which is the most boring part, really. Getting the magnum, the wolfsbane, that part's really cool. I would keep that. But the rest of it, especially the windmill part, just falls flat. Especially on the second or third playthrough, it's just not that interesting. The eighth and final one, and it's the most likely out of all the things I've said previously to happen in the DLC, is to have Ada Wong. She was originally going to be in Resident Evil Village, but they scrapped it, and I think it'd be cool to have her in there. Maybe have another assignment Ada mode where you play through the game and you have your crossbow with the explosive bolts, and you get to upgrade with the merchant, the Duke, and everything. And her involvement is not nearly as obvious as Resident Evil 4, like you see her multiple times, even playing as Leon. So her involvement in the story would probably be much more in the shadows, where Ethan and Chris and no one else sees her, and she's really playing a much more covert role in the story. But there could be more lore that could be revealed, and maybe she's working with the connections or continuing to work with the people that she worked with before to figure out the mold location and all that. It'd be interesting to see how that turns out. But that's out of everything, most likely that's probably what's going to happen. And this list really is just more entertainment and wish list, because Capcom's already probably set in stone and built what they've already wanted to do for DLC, and it's just a matter of releasing the information, and then it will be released. So this is just for entertainment, really. This probably none of the 8 things in here is going to happen, except for maybe the Ada part. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I appreciate you guys watching and your support, and thank you guys. I hope you have a good day. Bye everybody.